What is good? Midnight here, back again with another video for you guys. Dark Pit, Lucina, and now Daisy. These are some examples of the new Echo Fighter type characters in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. These are characters that echo the moves and base characteristics of other fighters and play very similarly. Sakurai has stated that because of this, Echo characters take considerably less time to make compared to original characters, and that has me hyped. So today, we'll talk about possible Echo Fighters coming to Smash Ultimate, how many we might see, and who they might be. But hold on a second. We still need to figure out what exactly an Echo Fighter is. Like, most people expected Dr. Mario to still be an Echo Fighter, but with some of his moves now changed, Sakurai has made him a more original character. But this blurs the lines between classifications of characters. What makes a character an Echo Fighter instead of its own unique character or even just a reskin? Now that we have an official term for these characters, we need to define it. So I think the basis for an Echo Fighter is a character with the exact same base moves as the character that they mimic, but with minor behavioral differences. Lucina and Dark Pit have the exact same moves as Marth and Pit respectively, besides some behavioral differences. Lucina just doesn't have the tipper mechanic that Marth has. And Dark Pit has arrows that move less than Pit's and has a slightly different knockback on his side B. But in essence, Echo Fighters and their base characters are interchangeable and the core gameplay doesn't really change. Dr. Mario is no longer an Echo Fighter because his moveset now differs from Mario's, so Dr. Mario is not equivalent to Mario and their playstyles will have more variation in the new iteration of Smash. So basically, an Echo Fighter is a character that is important enough in their series to warrant more than just an alternative color, besides Chrom. RIP. But closely mimics another character's moves with slight differences in how their moves behave. So I think that this makes it a little bit easier to determine who could be Echo Fighters because Echo Fighters have to have almost identical fighting styles relative to the fighter they're based on. Now, I know that there is a possibility that Echo Fighters could mimic characters from out of their series. I mean, Ganondorf was basically a clone of Captain Falcon up until now. But I'm not going to focus on characters like that. The trend so far is that Echo Fighters are from the same series as their originals, and as much as I'd like to see Blaziken as an Echo Fighter for Captain Falcon, I see Sakurai keeping it to the same series because it creates a cleaner differentiation between the many series in Smash and which characters come from each one. So, with all of that out of the way, I'm going to put out 5 Echo character ideas that I personally think are very possible for Smash Ultimate. We'll also talk about characters that, if they are included, I don't think they'll be Echo Fighters, but more on that later. Also, this is just who I personally think will make the cut. This is nothing official, of course, and if you have different ideas for who you think will be Echo Fighters in this game, drop a comment down below. I'd love to see what you guys think. Okay, so now let's get serious. So, there's been a 4chan leak going around that I honestly think has a high possibility of being fake. But just for shits and giggles, we're going to take some of this into account when thinking about this list. The leaker says characters, represented by code names, will be announced as follows: King and Ponytail in July, Old Man in August, Archer in September, Warrior and Secretary in October, Mech in November, and Rhythm, Folklore, Doll, and Prime Ribs announced after the game's release. So, just to be sure, let's take this leak with a grain of salt and move on to our first candidate. Kevin from Overcooked 2. Nah, but seriously, the first Echo Fighter idea is Isabelle. Now I know what you're probably thinking. Villager was already an oddball and Isabelle seems like even less of a fighter. But Animal Crossing's gameplay is not based on fighting, and neither is Villager's moveset. Well, besides the axe. But Isabelle would be a great Echo Fighter for Villager. With the core moves staying the same, maybe her attacks would do less, but her healing abilities from her assist trophy days would carry over. Which, by the way, we haven't seen her as an assist trophy in any Smash Ultimate gameplay yet. Which could mean nothing, but more on that later. Now, In the 4chan leak, the leaker said that during October, a character codenamed Secretary would be revealed, and most speculate that it'll be Isabelle, considering that she was the secretary to your playable villager in Animal Crossing New Leaf. She's also been very popularized, receiving her own amiibo and appearing in Mario Kart Deluxe, which proves that she's definitely a worthy enough character to be an Echo Fighter for sure. Number 2 is Dark Samus. Dark Samus would be an Echo Fighter similar to Dark Pit. Dark Samus was a very popular character from Metro Prime 2 Echoes and Metro Prime 3 Corruption. It's the reincarnation of the creature known as the Metroid Prime that took the shape of Samus. Dark Samus would get almost the same treatment as Dark Pit. Maybe it'd have some slight differences in its charge shot or even the side B. Dark Samus would also add some more Metroid representation in Smash, which is something many people have been asking for. Dark Samus is a character that people speculate to be the Prime Ribs character described by the leaker. And I feel like Dark Samus is important enough to Metroid's story to warrant being an Echo Fighter. But unless it's DLC, I think the announcement time would be strange, seeing that Ridley was already announced. I just think it would be strange to not announce them together, being that they're both Metroid reps, unless Dark Samus is DLC. But we'll see what happens leading up to Smash Ultimate's release. My next idea for an Echo Fighter would be the Octolings. Splatoon 2's Octo expansion was just dropped, so there's a lot of hype behind them. Inklings and Octolings play identically in Splatoon 2, so making them Echo Fighters seems to be easy. The only Inkling representation in Smash Ultimate so far though is from Splatoon 1, so Octolings, if added in, would represent Splatoon 2. Maybe they differ in damage and ink effect, but I don't see too much difficulty in implementing this character based on the Inklings. The trick to adding this character in though is announcing and adding them at a time that doesn't overshadow the introduction of the Inklings, as Inklings are a much more important character than Octolings. Overall, I think that if they aren't added in as 8 more alternative costumes, like how Little Mac's wireframe costumes exist, then they'll be Echo Fighters. Next is a bit of a curveball. I think Black Shadow from the F-Zero series has a good chance of getting into this game. Now that Ganondorf's playstyle has changed, some people might be looking for the same slower but crazy strong playstyle that Ganon had in Smash 4. Ganondorf was originally based off of Captain Falcon's moveset, so it would make sense for that playstyle slot to be filled in by an F-Zero character that's similar to Ganon. Black Shadow is a pretty big character in the F-Zero series, serving as one of Captain Falcon's biggest threats. He's known as the King of Evil in the F-Zero universe and could easily fill Ganon's shoes. Simple as that. I don't think that Blood Falcon will be an Echo Fighter of choice though, because based on the F-Zero story, he's a DNA clone of Captain Falcon. So it would make way less sense to add any form of variation or variety on this Echo Fighter. Plus, there's already a Blood Falcon alternate color for Captain Falcon. More F-Zero representation is also something that many people are asking for, and Black Shadow would be a great way to help with that. Now, before we get into the last character on the list, let's talk about very popular characters that a lot of people think will be Echo Fighters, but I personally don't think so. These are characters with a lot of hype around them, and I'm not saying that they won't get into the game, but if they do, they won't be Echo Fighters for various reasons. First is Dixie Kong. So yeah, Dixie Kong and Diddy Kong look very similar, but they would not play the same. Dixie Kong's main quirk is that she uses her hair for mobility and combat. This is a fundamental difference that would require reanimation and function changes when we look at moves like Diddy's jab. She also doesn't have a jetpack, which would mean a break in character if she had one in Smash, and Sakurai would not go against source material just to bring a character in. But fear not, if she were included, I think she'd be her own unique character for sure. In regards to the 4chan leak, many people think Dixie Kong is represented by the codename Ponytail, and it will be announced alongside King, which could represent King K. Rool. This could all be fake, but if it's not, this would definitely make sense and be really cool. Shadow the Hedgehog is also another character people think will be an Echo Fighter. However, I also don't really see this because Sonic and Shadow play and act completely differently in most Sonic games. Shadow's movement mostly comes from his jet boots instead of straight running, so that's a big difference between Sonic and Shadow. Similarly, Shadow's character is big on the Chaos Emeralds and using their power, and Sakurai knows this since Shadow's assist trophy used the Chaos Emeralds to slow time down. Shadow is too different from Sonic to be an Echo Fighter, but he could definitely be his own character. And sure, Shadow hasn't been seen as an assist trophy and Knuckles has, but that doesn't necessarily mean that Shadow won't come back as an assist trophy again. Same with Isabelle, to be honest, as much as I hate to say it. Last is Mecha Ridley. I've seen this idea in a few places. Mecha Ridley has been confirmed in the game from the Ridley trailer, but the alt costume wasn't available at the demo. And that's exactly it. I think it's that simple. The costume wasn't available in the demo, but it will be in the final game, and will not be an Echo Fighter. Sure, the 4chan leak says that the character Mech will be revealed in November, but I really don't think it's Ridley since he was just announced playable for Smash Bros. So yeah, now that we've talked about that, let's get to the last character. Finally, I think Ninten will be in the game as Ness's Echo Fighter. Yeah, you heard me right, Ninten from Earthbound Beginnings. Ness and Lucas are pretty different from each other, and I think that Sakurai is trying to make the game more accessible and playable for everyone this time around. With this in mind, Ninten could be Ness but easier to use, meaning that his up B could behave differently and be easier to pull off, or maybe the down B energy absorbing move could have different properties, like how Falco's Reflector is different compared to Fox's. Ness's leftover custom moves from the Smash 4 could also be used for Ninten. See, Sakurai is making a lot of changes to characters to make the playing experience better, such as, letting you see when Robin's tomes expire and adding directional arrows to Ness's up B to let you know where he'll fly. I know people definitely want different Earthbound reps, like Kumatora or Boney or anyone, but Ninten was the first Earthbound protagonist, and has a striking resemblance to Ness, and considering that Echo Fighters are easy to make, I think that this could be pulled off very quickly. But that's my list of which Echo Fighters I think will make the cut. If you have any ideas of who you think will be Echo Fighters, leave a comment down below. Even if your Echo Fighter ideas are from different series than the original fighters, I'd love to know what you guys are thinking. If you're hyped for more Echo Fighters, or just like the video, drop a like, it definitely goes a long way. Also, if you like what I do, subscribe for more. I just recently got a capture card, so I'll be able to make different kinds of videos moving forward, so I am super excited. But, until next time, peace.